You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more.
Hey, what up, my Crusaders? It's your boy Al Mega back with another epic episode of the Comic Crusaders Podcast. And today we have a legend in the building. Let me tell you, this woman here is the CEO of the Museum of Pop Culture, aka MoPOP, because we want MoPOP in our lives for real, right? So this is where geekdom, music, sci-fi, horror, and everything in between collides in the most mind-blowing way possible, all right? So today we're going to be diving deep into how MoPOP stays at the cutting edge of pop culture, why inclusivity and accessibility are key to the future of the arts, and how museums got to level up to keep pace with a world that's changing faster than a TikTok trend, baby. So let me introduce the big boss herself, the legend, Michele Smith. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you so much for that great introduction. I'm excited to be here and share everything that's going on at MoPOP.
Well, I'm happy to have you here. And listen, here we Crusaders, we love our good old origin story, Michele. So you got to tell us yours. Where are you originally from? And most important question of your life: what is the first thing in all of pop culture that you ever fell in love with?
Well, I fell in love with hip hop because I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hey.
And, my dad was in, music and always into the nightlife, taking me to the jazz lounges and, Double Dutch Bus, if you ever heard of that record, got me into that. And he was one of his friends. And so I started playing piano at the age of 3 and played the Suzuki violin. And as you know, Philadelphia is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from New York. So being on Broadway and going to all the art museums there and just all the Motown culture in Philadelphia. But hip hop is my love, and that's what I fell in love with it. And it's been part of my life.
So I know you're Philly going on, but who's your favorite artist? Does it happen to be a Philly native or outside of Philly?
I have several artists, but one of my favorites is Lenny Kravitz. I've always been a big fan of Lenny Kravitz, but I love the roots that, they're originally from Philadelphia, Eve, Jill Scott. So, I'm a lover of all Philadelphia things, but, I love all genres, but those are some of my favorites.
So, all right, so let's start getting into this stuff, Michele, because, you got this energy going. I already see you got that vibe. I love it. Let's go, girl. So, running MoPOP is like being the conductor of the ultimate geek orchestra, right? So how does it feel being at the helm, if you will, of one of the most exciting cultural institutions in the world?
Since stepping into the role of CEO, my visions has been to take MoPOP to be more than just a museum. I want it to be a space where diverse stories are told, where creators can see themselves and reflect, where the communities can engage with culture. Pop culture is a part of everyone's life. It defines us, and in turn, we define it. And as you talked about, it's ever flowing and ever changing. And I've always been that geek that loved music and art and sci-fi and all of the cultural history that goes into pop culture today. So I love being at the helm and being able to expand our focus to more of the accessibility and inclusivity, making sure that everyone feels seen and heard in our space.
Wonderful. All right. So, I know that pop culture is always shifting, going back to that at the speed of a TikTok trend, because those are the things that happen nowadays, right? So how do you keep MoPOP, ahead of the curve and keeping it as a must visit for fans of all things geek music and more?
Well, we want to be a community ally. And so we have a youth advisory board that really keeps us up on the trends. We have a great, curator and exhibitions team that we're always researching what's going on. But we also have our strategic and operational plan that really focuses on our 4 pillars: fashion, gaming, film, and music. And so we know that's ever changing, but we have 80,000 artifacts in our care. Only 1% of the artifacts that are in our care are at the museum.
What?
And so Yes.
Wow.
And
Wow.
our museum is an artifact in itself. It's a Frank Gehry museum. There's only 34 museums built like that in the world. And if you've ever had a chance to come to MoPOP, it's right in downtown in Seattle, in our Seattle Center. The monorail goes through it and drops you right off at our front door. So there's so much you can do, but we have architectural tours about the building. So the building itself is an art piece.
Don't you worry. I'm going to show you guys in a moment, folks. Don't you worry. We just get digging in because I want you to understand what this is before we start showing you why you got to buy a ticket to go to Washington. You know, listen, everybody getting their tax return money, so I know you have money for a trip, and we'll be giving you no stories, all right? All right, so we're living in a world, Michele, where superheroes, gaming, and sci-fi are no longer niche, if you will, right? They're global juggernauts. So how do you see pop culture shaping society, and what role do you think MoPOP can play in that evolution?
You know, I think where we're going in the world today is to reflect on the culture itself. You know, we have to talk about honoring the past to begin to where the future is. And so if you think about it, culture is repeating themselves. Think about the sampling that you have in your music. Some of that is from Motown that's gone into rap, into R&B, and is prevalent today. So really, it's a continuous process, part of where we are in pop culture. It's honoring the past, it's celebrating the future, it's working with the youth to help them move forward to where we are today. But as you know, it's fluid. And so we really try to keep up with that, but telling stories that haven't been told. So if you look into history, and this is where I take a really big deep dive, is I love listening to the music and the history of the music and what is the origin behind that. One of my biggest ones is Kendrick Lamar. If you think about it, he's a Pulitzer Prize winner that was writing art and became that. And in his art form of what he talks about and some of the things that he has highlighted in his new album with the mariachis and all the different things with, you know, the Crips, the Bloods, and bringing things all together, that is cultural legacy and history that has happened in our time.
Peace, Michele. I'm loving her, and that's knowledge, folks. Do you hear this? Do you hear this? I'm digging the energy. Now, all right. So, MoPOP has celebrated everything from fantasy to hip hop and horror. So, what is the dream exhibit that you'd love to curate that hasn't even been done yet? And please tell me it involves wrestling or maybe some old school action flicks.
I mean, there's several exhibits under our fashion, film, gaming, and music. I think one of my biggest exhibits that I'd love to do is vinyl. Vinyl is coming back. Like, you know, vinyl bars are in right now, and everybody is now getting a new record player or new vinyl things that are going on. And so for me, I would love to create a vinyl exhibit of different records and different genres, and really, you know, all of the different types of, you know, things that go along with it, like the speakers from Marshall or the vinyl records or the shelves and things like that. That's a dream of mine, but I don't know if my team will let me do that, but that's something I would love to see.
Yeah, that would be dope because, you know, that's what's talking about the pictures on the album covers, the art of the album covers, you know what I mean? Because, again, we had artists at the time that, hey, you know, hard times and, you know, allowed to be on covers, especially when we looked a certain way. It was kind of, you know, deep dives. I think, listen, I grew up with records that we get them as Christmas gifts when I was a kid, you know? So it's like to see it come back is so wild, Michele. So wild to me.
It's wild. And honestly, you know, when you talk to the artist, there's a story of how they got to put that, you know, cover on the record. It may be a personal story. It might be something that, you know, they feel very, you know, poignant about. It might be something that was actually happening in that time. So you never know. I think that's something down the line that I'd love to explore with my team. But that's the whole thing. You know, pop culture is a global language and it tells a story. And so whether it's sci-fi, whether it's, you know, horror, or whether it's film or music, there's always something to be learned with pop culture.
You're in line. All right, talking about learning, right? Because, you know, from AI-generated art to interactive VR experiences, how do you think these emerging technologies are redefining the museum experience? And is MoPOP ready to embrace the metaverse?
You know, one of my biggest things was Fortnite. You know, I'm really a big gamer myself. And you remember at the time of the pandemic when Travis Scott did his first concert in Fortnite. Yeah. I believe that technology, think about it. He did, a whole concert where most times when you're going on these concerts, it's like 50 concerts around the world. He generated in one Fortnite, gaming app, all the concerts that you could do in 50 nights, almost doing even more than what any concert has ever grossed in the world. So amazing. Part of that also is the accessibility and the global accessibility of that. That's very, very powerful. And at MoPOP, we're always looking for those, things to do for technology. Right now, we're working on an AI-generated scent that will be a perfume based on the building and a guitar. Preservation of care is really big for us. So we have over 1,100 oral histories from sci-fi, filming, gaming, and music of people. And so we are preserving that in a digital asset management system. And we have one of the largest hip hop collections in the world that is online right now. And for us, technology is key because it adds that accessibility that people from around the world, even museum curators, can borrow from our collection because they have access to see it online.
Oh my God, I'm excited. I got to check out that hip hop section.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a New York, hip hopper, so I got my vibes from my time. So I'm definitely hoping you got some cool stuff there. So, I'm about to bring up this website, folks. This is the website I've been showing off that you guys must go to. That's MoPOP, MoPOP.org, baby. Again, this is a dope little website. A lot of stuff where you got to visit, man. Things are going on. Now, Michele, talk to me here, because museums can sometimes feel like gatekeepers of culture. Some, right? But MoPOP has made a name for itself as a bridge between generations, genres, and even fan communities. How is it that you keep that energy going?
I mean, pop culture is universal. It bridges, generations, geographies, and experiences. And for us, we really sit down and think about what is the next 3 years. It takes us 2 years to build an exhibit. So we're already in 2027 thinking about what is going to be at the forefront, looking at what people are listening to. Again, going back to our youth advisory board and talking to our community, we do a lot of work where we survey and say, what do you like to see? For example, we have our groundbreaking exhibit that's here that really is a window into our work called Massive, The Power of Pop Culture. We have an exhibit part that actually says, what is the next thing in pop culture? And what keeps coming up is Fortnite. Fortnite comes up every time I go into that exhibit. Guests that come through the museum can talk about what do they feel is the next thing in pop culture. And Fortnite is either 1, 2, or 3. It's always changing. And we've had that exhibit up since last March. And it's always interesting for me to see. So we collect the data from our guests to say, what are you looking to see? What's hot in your mind? And so that's how we kind of keep up with the culture, along with a lot of the research. And again, hearing from our community, but also hearing from our youth program.
Well, I dig it. I mean, and look how beautiful the inside looks. Wow. I can't wait to visit one of these days. So we were speaking about inclusivity, and that is a big part of what MoPOP's mission is. So what initiatives are you most proud of when it comes to making pop culture spaces more diverse, welcoming, and of course, accessible for all?
Well, I think it's our diverse exhibits. We most recently opened up Asian Comics this past couple of weeks, where we worked with Barbican, and that's featuring over 400 works of art from, anime from Japan, South Korea, and China. Coming up in May, we're opening up a jazz exhibit with Never Turn Back, Echoes of African American Music. So we're really focusing on the communities that we serve. And then at the end of the year in March, we're focused on Hip Hop History Month, and we're coming up with a guest curator hip hop exhibit. We do grunge, we do punk, we do sci-fi. So really focusing on these communities that really tell stories that have been untold. We most recently this past week had an Indian film festival. It's never been done in Seattle, and we partnered with our Indian consulate to launch the first ever Indian Film Festival here at MoPOP for the past 3 days.
Oh, that's fire. I love that. I love that. Yeah, listen, we got to get exposed to everything, man. This is a big, big world, and let's learn as much as we can from each other, man. For real. I dig that. So, what advice would you give to other institutions then that maybe want to embrace diversity but are struggling to maybe implement that in a meaningful way?
Well, diversity, inclusion, and equity is in everything that we do. And just because what's going on in the world, it doesn't need to change. It's part of who we are in MoPOP. It's ingrained in everything that we do. We're not calling it out because this is the way that we act and what is in the norms of how we work in hiring and how we actually look at our exhibits and how we make sure that we have sensory-friendly mornings. So it's ingrained in everything that we do. And my advice would be for, the executives of these museums to talk about who they want to be and how they want to show up in the world of the museum world, and how can that accessibility and diversity be embedded into everything that they do. It's not just something that, hey, we're doing diversity and inclusion. You have to walk the walk and talk the talk. And so we've embedded it into how we work, how we think, how we're putting out our exhibits, how we hire, and how we work with our community around us.
Absolutely, because I think that pop culture of any a genre of anything in pop culture is a village, a very diverse village that all have pitched in to make it what it is. So yeah, absolutely. This is a very natural part of what pop culture is, and I love that this museum celebrates that in such a wonderful way. Now, people today have infinite options for entertainment, from streaming services to video games, right? So what can museums do to remain not just relevant, but irreplaceable?
I think for museums, we have to do more experiences. So think about it right now. What I've learned from the pandemic is that the museum is a community hub, and we are multi-generational. So you can come to my museum and have a younger group that are going to our sound and vision theater and looking at a movie, where we have a cafe and lounge where you might experience some type of different cuisine or retail book, or we go to a different exhibit. But we like to plan some of our events. Like we have our Fashionably Undead that we do in October, a 21 and over, costume party. So I think we have to continue to make sure that we are keeping up with the culture by adding these multi-generational experiences, some things at night, some things during the day. We also have some of our senior groups that are looking for, or our older adult groups that are looking for book launches, and they just want to learn more about the artifact and different things like that. So you have to really cater to all our audiences as they're coming into their museums. We're seeing families come from all different walks of life and generations, and we have something to do for everyone that's coming to our museum.
I did, because I was going to ask you next that if you could steal any one element from a Comic-Con and bring it into the museum, what would it be? Like a Cosplay Tuesday, a panel with Stan Lee's hologram or something?
I would love that, but we just had a cosplay contest with our opening party for Asian comics. And
really?
People come dressed up and different things like that. So we're already doing it. But to take it to another level, maybe we have the whole weekend like that. I mean, we really look to work to see what's going to work well. And we partnered with Emerald City Comic Con a couple weeks ago when they had their convention here. We provided them a code that they could come visit Asian comics and come to the museum. Some were dressed up in cosplay. And when we did our opening party, we also catered to that event by having a cosplay contest that night.
Oh, that is so cool. You should definitely kind of do your own thing. I remember in New York, I think it was MoMA, and they had done a comic convention within it. So people got, a convention and obviously the experience of the museum. It was so much fun. Let me tell you, I didn't know where to go with it. I wanted to stay in the convention and look at all the dope work. I'm like, what the hell? This is great. One of my favorite, definitely, conventions, because it was so different.
Awesome.
Really love that. Now, in 10 years, what do you think MoPOP is going to look like? Will we be walking through holographic concerts and VR exhibits of classic films, or are we going even wilder than that?
Well, in 10 years, my hope with that we would continue to keep up with technology. I mean, that's a really part of who we are. We have one of the largest LED screens right now in the world, and we're looking to replace that to even bigger and better. We're looking to have some more concerts as we move forward. VR and technology and interactives are in all of our exhibits as we speak. But we grow and we change because we don't want to become the blockbusters of the world or obsolete. So we're always looking at new technology, new ways to scale, new ways to embed. I think AI might be a big format in how we work. We're still learning around that. I'm just looking at an AI policy for the entire organization. So there's a lot of things that we have to think about. When we start things out, we really kind of pilot it and then reform and then scale from there. So in 10 years, probably keeping up with the technology, being a global force in the world, being the national museum. That's one of the ways that we're on track right now to show that pop culture is a powerful force. It's a global language, and that we have more visitors coming to visit it to enjoy what we offer for the world.
Pop culture unites more than it divides, unless you're a comic book fan. All right, so let's play a game here for a moment.
Okay.
You get to bring one fictional pop culture character back to life and have them run MoPOP for one day. And who's taking over? And should we be scared?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Does Wonder Woman count?
Hey, anyone.
You caught me off guard here. So I would probably say Wonder Woman. You know, I would see her coming to life and, you know, working around the museum and doing all the things that she does. I think that would be mine because, like I said, I have to really think about it. But that's the first thing that popped into my head when you said bring back to life.
Dig it. I like that. As a comic book geek, yes, you know I like that answer. So, all right. So let's imagine you're curating a Hall of Fame for pop culture icons, and you can induct one musician, one filmmaker, and maybe one comic book writer or writer in general that you love. Who are your three picks?
Okay, one musician,
one filmmaker, and one writer.
Stanley Kubrick, probably for film.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that. Musician, I'm going to go with right now Doechii, because she's hot and she's changing the game, and I'm a really big fan. And where am I going? What's my next one?
A writer?
A writer. Rest in peace, Octavia Butler.
Ooh, beautiful choice there. And I love Doechii too, man. Beautiful young lady. And talented as heck, man. That album is fire. Jesus Christ. I love to see the lady stepping up in hip hop with talent like this. I mean, they really are stepping up. And I think a lot of the guys got to start getting scared because the ladies are getting way better. I found myself jamming like, yo.
Well, there's a whole lineup of new step up. You know, there's Glorilla.
Oh, yeah. Yo, in the car, I be jamming when I listen. I'm like, yo, I'm jamming to all these female hip hop. This is one that when I was a kid, that was a rarity. Now I was like, whoa, and they're kicking ass. And I think, you know, as a girl daddy, go ahead, ladies, do your thing.
Hey, and we're in Women's International Month, so why not? Doechii, Glorilla.
Yeah, we have a great boss woman here, CEO of MoPOP. Don't you forget it, folks. All right, you guys got to stay tuned here. There's so many ways you can help, you know, but definitely go visit the spot. The website's beautiful. That is mopop.org, MOPOP.org. Listen, right now I'm showing you the support. There's so many ways you could give. You could go visit. I mean, look at this dope. That's the LED screen you're talking about?
Yes. Jesus. That's in our Sky Church. Yes.
Whoa. I could imagine playing video games on that. Must be fun.
We play a lot of video games on that. It's a very fun time to do that.
That's cool. I mean, before you get involved, check it out, become a member, volunteer, become a sponsor. As you hear, this is dope. I mean, it's right there in Washington. I saw a little note there that if you're a Washington resident, you kind of get a discount, right?
You do.
Beautiful. Again, this is a great website. So what's in store? What's the next hot thing that people need to be aware of that MoPOP is going to be popping off on? No pun intended.
Well, coming up in May, we have our Never Turn Back Echoes of African American Music. And then we move on again into Hip Hop History Month in November. We also have our 25th anniversary. So on June 21st, which is the solstice, we are celebrating a quarter century of pop culture. So we are going to have so many activities that weekend for people to come out and really celebrate who the power of pop culture is in the 25 years we've been in the community, but also everything and every moment from different moments in pop culture since we started the museum in 2000.
Oh, I dig that, man. So 25 years in the game. So how y'all keep it so fresh and spicy? I'm digging it.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, well, folks, again, you want to follow Michele too and get inspired, know what everything they're popping up, so you can visit her at LinkedIn. That's Michele with one L, Y Smith, all right? I have all the links in the show notes. We make it easy peasy here, all right? Now, as a big lady boss out there in the game, what type of advice would you give out to these young ladies out there that, you know, are trying to achieve their dreams and goals?
You know that representation matters, and that you always want to put your voice out there. To do your homework and to be confident in what you do, and that creativity actually sparks the experience of what you're doing in the world. And, you know, I'm just excited that you've invited me on this show to share with this community. I'm grateful, and thank you so much for being able to highlight the museum. It's people like you that help us spread the power of pop culture, and thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you for coming on. It's people like you that keep it fun and fresh, and folks like me, and giving us some cool stuff to check out and talk about and share with our communities as well. So thank you for running such a beautiful machine here and what is MoPOP, baby. And thank you to Naya and everybody else that helped put this together. You know, much love. Appreciate y'all. And with that, you know, my Crusaders, I'm going to show you one more time. It is MoPOP. I love saying that. MoPOP. Yeah. MoPOP.org. Show the love. I'm telling you, you saw that. They also have an online museum that's open 24 hours a day online. So I'm telling you, you already heard her before. There's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to repeat it. Put it on rewind, all right? All right? Make sure to follow her. Follow everything Comic Crusaders as well. You know what it is, that ComicCrusaders.com. Like, everything's on there. The real Al Mega, Comic Crusaders. You know, it's undercover capes. Follow us everywhere. I appreciate you guys, everybody that was lurking. Stop being so shy, guys. I see you. Don't be shy. Talk. We got to find out and gab here a little bit, all right? And man, with that, it's Al Mega. Hasta la próxima, mi gente. Much love. Wepa!
Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. If you like the content, please turn on notifications. Also, please visit ComicCrusaders.com and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.